Good morning, everyone. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So I am going to play with the Zentangle pattern Tripoli today, which is a super fun pattern. And I hope that you are all ready and have your stuff together. Let me see here. I just want to, real quick, I'm going to clean off my tortillon because this one's real dirty and I didn't grab another. So I'm just using a little sandpaper block, which I often do when I do this, when I forget to grab a new one. So I just kind of clean it up. You can use an emery board or a nail file or something too, if that works for you. I like to do this if I've been using color with a tortillon and I don't have a lot handy, but it's a nice way to get some extra use out of your tortillons. I have my micron and a pencil, and I just made a big mess of my desk. There you go. All right, so we are going to get started. All right, let's see here. I see I have a couple people already on. Wow, that was fast. So today we are going to dive in with Tripoli, and we are going to do some variations of it, and we are going to have a really good time. So let's see here. I'm going to take, so you can see here I have these three-sided shapes that have a little embellishment on the inside. Here they are again with a little bit more detailing and done in yet a third way. We're gonna expand this a little bit and do some other fun things with it. But first I want to go over how we actually do Tripoli, and then we will dive into some of the variations. So I'm going to take a tile and I'm going to start by putting a dot in each corner. I like to take this time to kind of take some breaths, center myself a little bit. Oh, let me make sure that I'm focused there. There we go. Come in a little bit. You can see the glue on my desk pad today. I took a class in bookbinding this week, which was super fun. Here, I'll show you real quick. I made this, which was so much fun. I haven't done a lot with bookbinding before, so that was good. But I did get glue all over my desk because I am a messy creator. Alright, so now I'm going to connect with my pencil just all of my dots to create a nice little border. Alright, I'm going to take my pen. We're going to do this fairly large. Let's see here. I'm looking for the pen I wanted to use today, but this one will do. I'm going to come in and I'm going to go right about in the middle because I'm going to go fairly large for this one, and I'm going to make one line. I'm going to turn my tile a little bit. I'm going to make another line, turn my tile a little bit till I have a three-sided shape, like a triangle. It doesn't have to be a squared off triangle. You can have more rounded tips. Nancy, yes, all of my lives always stay up on my page. You can always access them under live or video. Facebook changes how they keep them listed every so often. Also, I periodically move or copy them over to my website, which is whimsybykelly.com, and also to YouTube. So you can always watch them. Alright, once we have our three-sided shape there, I'm going to come in and I'm going to create an aura of any one of these lines. Okay? So you can see here that this line is an aura of this line. And now I'm going to turn and I'm going to make a three-sided shape next to it. Okay? And then I'm going to pick any of these lines. We'll go with this one. And I'm going to make an aura of that line, right? And then I'm going to make a three-sided shape. I can pick any of these lines now, so we'll go with this one. And I will continue with that process. So let's see, maybe we'll go right here. And then maybe we'll go here. And what's nice about this is that you can then move across your tile or across your section in any direction you want to, simply by choosing which line you're going to aura. And of course, turn your tile as your hand is comfortable. Let's see, maybe we'll go right here. Maybe we'll add one here so that this one can come right up to the edge there. And I try and keep them about the same size. That really helps with this pattern. And just work until you've filled in as much as you'd like. And obviously you could keep going and going and going. I'll do a little bit more. And if you close them in, you may end up with slightly different shapes, but you're going to get a pretty good idea of how you move across the page that way. Now you can then go in like I did with this one, and you can make like a little loop, like a little C shape on each of these, and then place an orb in the middle. You can fill these in really with any kind of little pattern or embellishment that you'd like. One of the so I've shown them this way, and I've also shown them this way, and then I've shown with a more minimal, just kind of a little like almost like a little dash mark in the corners, just like a little flick of my pen. So I don't want to replicate any of those three. So what I am going to do is I'm just going to come in here and I am going to add in, let's see, what should we add in there? Something simple. These are a great place to add, you know, fragments of any kind. So I think today we are just going to do something real simple, and we are going to add a little C shape in each corner. And depending on what pattern or fragment you choose to add in here, you may get, you know, additional patterns coming to light. You know, you may see like a curve there or a curve there. All kinds of different little patterns within patterns. And you can color these in. You can leave them, you know, empty and blank. It's really entirely up to you. But the variations with these little patterns inside are really limitless. If you can think of it, if you can see it in buildings or in tile work or anywhere. It can fit into these little Tripoli triangles that we've got going on here. So you can see this is a really simple little pattern, and yet it looks a whole lot more intricate than it was. Okay, so that's one variation that we can do with this, and that's a very simple one. So now we're going to come on to, we're going to take our tile, we are going to, we're going to do this again. I am going to make it in kind of like some pinwheely kind of shapes. So I'm going to, and I know I'm going to want like a few of these. So I'm going to start with my dots, add those in, add in my border. I'm going to start more toward off to the side here, and I'm going to go, let's see, I think we're going to go fairly large. So you can see I'm already going bigger than I went there. And you can do these really tiny too, and you'll get a completely different look. But I tend to try and draw it larger for my lives so that we can do more. So there's my three-sided shape. Okay. Now I'm going to come in. I'm going to come fairly close. You could do larger border or larger auras, skinnier auras, and how you do those will also change the look of your pattern when you're all done. So I've created this aura of that one. I'm going to come up, finish that off. I'm going to turn my tile. I'm going to make my aura. I'm going to come over, finish off my three sides. I'm going to keep going with this, and you can see I'm kind of going off the page here, and that's okay. And then I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to come there, and I'm going to finish that off. So now I actually have something that looks sort of like a flower. And if you know me, you know that that's one of the things that I always like to do with a pattern, is to try and make it look like a flower. So I have one there. I'm going to come up here and do one. I'm going to do one down here. So I'm going to start with my line. And I left a space because I'm not intentionally going off of this one that I've already made. Okay. I certainly could. I could come in and I could just keep going so that they're all connected, but I want three separate pieces here. So I'm going to make my triangle, my three-sided shape. I'm going to aura that. I'm going to make another. I'm going to aura this next line. Make my three-sided shape. I'm going to aura this line, and the edge of that is going to be off the page, so I don't have to draw that. I'm going to make an aura of this one. Again, the edge is off there, but maybe you can just see the edge right there. And I'm just going to continue doing these. See, the edge is off there. So now I can aura this one, and I'm actually going to be able to aura that one to make my final piece. Okay, so there's a second flower kind of shape, I should say. Okay, and I have room to do one more, so we'll do that again. So I'm going to come up here somewhere because I have this space. I'm going to turn my tile a little bit, and I'm going to make my three-sided shape. And then I'm going to do my auras, turning my tile. Okay, so you can see there I have a floral-esque kind of pattern there. It's not actually flowers, but it gives that impression, which is really all I strive for with these. I'm never looking to make exactly flowers. Zentangle is, non-representational, kind of abstract. So while I like getting those hints, that idea that it's flower-esque, I don't go out of my way to make it look exactly like a flower. No, Tammy, these aren't auras. The line that I made is an aura. An aura is simply when you are creating an echo of the line that you've already made. So let me see here. So I'll come back to this one. So this is an aura of this other three-sided shape, but this line right here is an aura of this line. Okay, I hope that made sense. So this isn't an aura, but this first line that I made, I started it with an aura. Okay, so, and if you have questions, feel free to email me or message me about that, and I'd be happy to go over it with you. So there's 2 ideas of things that we can do with this. We're going to do another. I'm going to make my dots and my border. We are going to use Tripoli as a string. So to do that, I'm going to come down here. Well, I turned my tile, and I'm going to make, let's see, I think I'm going to make this one smaller. So I am going to make a little 3-sided shape right here that kind of tucks and fits into my little corner. Now I'm going to make an aura of that line. Okay, I'm going to make an aura of this line and kind of go like this. And I am going to alternate back and forth where I choose to make my little, or where I choose to stretch these little triangles. This would also work great as a border. So all I'm doing is I'm kind of fitting these little triangle shapes together as I move across my tile. So now you can see that I'm going to continue this up here. Excuse me. I'm going to continue this up here, but maybe I don't want it to just be divided into 2. So I could use this tangle itself, and I could make an aura here as well. And I can move over in this direction. We'll say that fit, right? So now I've got a section here, and then I've got this section here. So let's finish going up. And all I'm doing is I'm picking a line and creating an aura and then building a 3-sided shape off of that. So there's my aura of this line, my 3-sided shape. Maybe I don't want it to be, and I tend to get bigger. I like them about this size, not quite as small as I had there. But I can move this over here so that it's not a perfectly straight line as I divide it up. So maybe I didn't want it going exactly to my corner. Okay, so now I have 1, 2, and 3 sides. So maybe I still want another section. So I could come in to any of these lines, any of these areas, excuse me, and add in an aura and build out another kind of, I don't know, path, I guess we would call it, across my tile. to create, and you can see it goes off there. So now I can use these other areas to fill in with other tangles of my choice. It's a great way to divide up your tile. With this, I'm going to show you something fun that you can do, which is to actually connect all of these. You can use, I like to go in with my pen, and all I'm actually doing is I'm adding like a little ribbon. All this is a little spot, kind of like a little rectangle that I'm coloring in. So that it looks like there's a little ribbon behind this connecting all of these. And I just always choose about the same spot. So somewhere like right in the middle of each of these little triangles that I'm just kind of using to connect them together. And you don't have to do this only when you use it as a string or as a border, but you can use it really anytime you use this pattern if you'd like to. But you can see how by adding that in, it really does help with that whole string look, or that that border look that you might be looking for. And it only takes a minute, and it gives you a really neat overall look. Okay, so you can see how that changes it up completely from something like this or something like this. I'm going to come back to the flower ones because I made these large, and I did it for a reason, because I wanted to show you. We already talked a little bit about adding, you know, fragments and changing it up and making all kinds of cool patterns and stuff from that. But without going into actually doing a bunch of fragments or something like that, you can make this a very cool, very intricate looking pattern simply by coming in and placing an aura inside each of these little shapes that you'd made. So each of your little triangle shapes, if you come in and you add in an inner aura, you'll get a more intricate looking piece. And of course you could certainly fill these with any fragments that you wanted to. You could color in your inner triangle shapes. You can shade them. You could fill those with a fragment. The sky's the limit. There is no end to the fun things that you can do with these simple shapes. I'm going to do 2 of these, and I am going to shade them. And I'm just going to leave this other one to complete later so that we can do some other cool stuff too. But I did want to show you how these would look shaded. So I'm going to come in and I can lay down a little bit of graphite in my corners. And the nice part about Tripoli is you can shade it in a bunch of different ways. But this is just a fun way to shade these. And these obviously don't need to be when you draw them in these little clusters. You could shade any of them, or you could do this little interior aura and shading anytime you draw these. I want you to, when you play with these patterns, I want you to really kind of take time and think, oh, I can play with these. I can have fun with these. Okay. So now I'm going to come in and I'm just going to soften that a little bit. So I'm kind of dragging my graphite around the interior edge there. I want to leave a spot in the center that's brighter. If the entire thing's gray, you're not really going to get any highlight. And the key to good shading is to look like there are darker parts and lighter parts. It's all about making it look like the light's playing off of it. So when you add graphite, you are adding a shadow. And when you leave something light or bright, it adds a highlight to it. So I've added that there. I would also, you could also come in and you could pick one side and add a little bit of graphite. So I'm going to look at this like the bottom. So I would add a little bit of graphite there. And I'm not getting carried away. I'm not going to come in and do these undersides or anything. I could if this was a more intricate piece, but this is just a little simple tangle. And then I'm adding just a little bit of shadow on the underside of what I'm treating as individual flowers. So I want a little heavy here, so I'm going to soften this a little bit more. There we go. So you can see how, because I went a little heavier than I wanted to, I just kind of very carefully pulled out my shading a little further to make it less dramatic. Okay, so that's 3 different ideas, and of course you could always add your little fragments in here, or you could come in and do something really, really simple, like just put on a little teeny tiny triangle in the darker to play off those little dark ribbons. Now we are going to take a new tile, make our dots, make our border, and we're going to do something a little different. Let's see here. Which one do I want to do now? I always have so many ideas. Let's see. Okay. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to come in here and we are going to make a line, right? That's going to be our first line. But instead of making it squared off, I'm going to curve my edges, right? So instead of it being a crisp little triangle, it kind of looks a little bit more like a candy corn. I'm going to, again, I'm going to make a line that's an aura, only I'm not going to make it the same size. I'm only going a little bit there, and then I'm going to curve that, and again, make that a 3-sided shape, right? Like that little candy corn shape. Now I'm going to pick another one of these lines, so maybe this one, and I'm going to create an aura, and I'm going to make it extend out a little bit on either side, and I'm going to round it, and I'm going to bring it in. So I have my 3 sides. I'm going to pick a side to aura again. So right here I'm going to aura this line, and then I'm going to bring it out, bring it down, round it up. Okay. I'm going to come in here, right here, and I'm going to make a little aura, and I'm going to round this. And you can see how by always making that aura, they always fit together even though they're not the same size. I like to do this one because much like in Zeppel, sorry, I'm having a terrible time talking today. I'm not quite sure why. I think maybe I needed another 37 hours of sleep or something. But much like in Zeppel, when you put these all together like this, you get something that looks like rocks or pebbles or like a road or a path. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to make a little aura, I'm going to extend it out here and round it up. And then I'm also going to make a little one right here. So here I'm going to extend this one, bring it down and curve it. And now I still have the option. I can come in here and I can fit another one right in there. So you can see how you don't have to necessarily make them all the same shape, or all the same size, I should say. You do want to stick with the same shape. So these kind of candy corn shapes start to make this like little path. Let's see. So I'm just kind of filling in my spaces. Carol, I do these every Saturday morning at 11:30. I go about a half hour, 45 minutes, depending. Sometimes as long as an hour, but I try not to take up your whole Saturday. And then I also do regular classes that you can find by watching my Facebook page or joining my newsletter or checking out my website, which is whimsybykelly.com. I have a really fun class that I'm teaching tomorrow, as well as a couple other days. See, these ones right here are kind of off the edge of the page, but that's okay. You don't always have to fit the whole thing on the page. But I am doing a really fun Celtic-inspired illuminated letter class. That's a tangled class. I'll show you an example of that when I'm done with this tile, in case anyone's interested in signing up for that class. There we go. So I'm going to say that this one's pretty full, that I have the impressions of what I'm looking to create there, and I'm going to shade it like I did in Zeppel the other day, and make it look like little stones or little pebbles. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to create kind of an L on one side with my graphite in each of these shapes. So kind of down one side and a little bit over. So down one side and a little bit over. And you don't have to do every shape when you are shading. You can if you want to, but the mind is an amazing thing, and if something looks like it's shaded, if the largest pieces are shaded, your brain tells you that all the rest is too. So while I'm adding in the graphite here on all of these, I'm only going to actually shade a couple of these so we can move on and I can show you some other stuff too. So I've just kind of added that little L or C shape just to one side. And then I'm going to come in with my tortillon and I'm going to soften that up and just kind of pull the graphite over so that I have shading that gives it this bumpy, pebbly texture. And I really do appreciate you spending your time with me. I know that there are a lot of art classes and there's a lot of mindfulness classes and things out there, especially right now, but I really wanted to take this time on Saturdays. This week is 1 year since I started doing these lives. But I really wanted to kind of dive in. When I polled some of my students and just kind of paid attention to what people were talking about online, so many people were so focused on feeling like they needed to learn every pattern that was out there. And while that's super, super fun to do, you know, you can get lost in that and you can start to feel like, oh, I'm behind because there's so many patterns out there. And a friend of mine and another CZT and I were talking, and we were saying that, you know, we get into a rut and we start drawing the patterns the way that we always did, the way that we first learned them, the way that we were taught, and then we kind of get stuck in that rut and we always draw them the same way. And they don't have to be drawn the same way. And when you branch out and you play with one pattern in a bunch of different ways, you learn a lot from yourself. And you focus your creativity and you learn that, you know, the one pattern that you just drew can look like this or like this or like this or like this, right? And when you realize that, and if you try and apply different techniques to each pattern that you're really going to expand your repertoire without having to try and remember a whole bunch of different new little things. All right, so before I move on, I did want to show you that fun little class that I'm doing. So it is a Celtic illuminated letter. So this is one of the examples that I finished for tomorrow. I'm teaching this class tomorrow. I'm teaching it on St. Patrick's Day, and I'm teaching a late night version of it on the 26th. So if that's something you're interested in, you can find it on my website, or you can message me and I can send you the link. All right, but back to our regularly scheduled program. All right, so here's another tile. We're going to come in. We're going to do our little dots. We're going to do our little border. See how many we've done, and let me check on our time. All right, so it's noon. So let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to do one more just because we have time. Let's see, Betty, tomorrow it is from 2 to about 4 or 4:30 Eastern time, and it's basic tangle supplies and some watercolor pencils, a little bit of water, and a paintbrush or a watercolor or a water brush, and a metallic jelly roller, metallic paints. So it's a pretty simple class, and it's suitable for all levels. It's not going to be super complicated, but it is a fun class, and it teaches some fun little techniques. All right, so let's see here. I have about 9 other ideas I want to show you, so let me see what I can come up with. Okay, so I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to kind of veer away from Tripoli for just a second, and I am going to make just kind of some loopies on my page as a string. But I did that in pen this time because I actually want those to, those are going to be some shapes that I'm going to keep in this overall piece. Okay. I'm now going to come in and I'm going to create a little aura on the inside of each of these loops. So I've got kind of some teardrop shapes, but they could have been more round. It doesn't really matter. Often I have this kind of little piece already in place before this live. Okay, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to pick one of these sections. So I'm going to pick this one because it's my biggest. Okay, and I'm going to find one of these curved lines, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to make a little aura. Okay, even though this is curved, kind of curved, I'm only going on a little part, so mine's mostly straight. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to make my little 3-sided shape, and I'm going to continue making those until I fill up this entire little section. And the reason I wanted to show you this is because I wanted to show you that just because you have a curved line doesn't mean you can't fit these more straight like pieces in. Okay, so you can see how that kind of created that flower shape that we talked about before. But I'm going to continue here, and I'm going to fill up this entire section. So we're using Tripoli as a fill. And sometimes, they don't stay exactly the same shape. They don't stay exactly the same distance apart. That's okay, because the nice part is that it's such a complex little pattern that you don't notice that so often. Okay. Now, once we have that done, I like to come in and I like to add in some of these fragments. So let's see here. I'm going to come in and I'm going to add, so I'm making a little dash in from each corner. And I could fill that center space in with another little triangle. I could leave it with just the little dash. But I want to mix it up a little bit, and I want to play off of the roundness of these other things. So in the center there, I'm going to add a little orb. And it's not much of anything here. You know, these little patterns that you're building in add so much intricateness, but there's nothing nothing you need to beat yourself up over. These are really simple little shapes as I create these. You can make them more complicated if you want to. You can be very, very precise with these little patterns and with all of your little auras and all of your little Tripolis, or you can just kind of, I always say, just kind of free tangle here. Just kind of let it go and enjoy putting your pen to your paper and creating some really fun little things. And I do both. I do a lot of classes where we spend a lot of time being very precise and very focused on what we're making. And then I do things like this. When I tangle for myself and I'm just getting ideas and I'm just kind of playing with stuff, I don't worry so much about, are all of my auras exactly the same distance apart? When I'm tangling for mindfulness, or when I'm tangling to make something specific, I'm much more mindful and much more aware of where I'm placing my lines. It's kind of a different process, a different overall feel. I am actually, in a month or two, probably not till May, but I'm going to launch my Mindfulness Fridays again, which are really little short classes where we, again, only focus on one tangle, but we do it very, very mindfully so that we can really lose ourselves in the process of tangling. Whereas these little lives that I do are really designed to give you ideas to take back to your own tangle practice. So I'm really glad that you seem to find value in those. Let's see. So I said I was only going to do one more, but I want to do another one. So I understand if people need to drop off, and I perfectly understand that. And I do appreciate you spending your Saturday morning with me. But if you want to hang out a little bit longer, I am going to do one more. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make a nice little triangle. And now this time I'm going to leave a bigger gap. So I made my aura, but I made, more of a little space in between. I'm going to pick a section, I'm going to make my aura. And I am being a little more precise this time. I want to try and, this time I'm trying to kind of accent that space. And you can, like I said, you can make it really skinny, you can make a big gap, but you get a different feel depending on how wide that space is. And again, you could fill up the whole tile, you could just do parts of it. But you get a much airier look with a bigger aura, which was one of the things that I kind of wanted to demonstrate, right? So when they're nice and tight and close, it's a more dense, packed in look. But when they're like this, they kind of seem almost like little puzzle pieces. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to add in an orb in the center of each one of these. And this is just a little orb. I like the round. This was originally drawn with, the way that I learned how to do this pattern was, I've lost it, like this, right? So that it has the orb, and then you make this kind of, here, I'll draw one. So here's my little triangle, and then I make like a curved little C shape, and then you squish an orb in the center, and then you color in, and then you would just shade your orb. But this one, I'm coming in and I'm just making little orbs in the center. And now I'm going to go back to some of the other patterns I've played with in the past, and I'm going to use a takeoff and land method. So I'm creating like this little pinwheel around each one of these. So I've started on here, and then I just kind of make a stretch with that stroke. So I start on one side, and then I take off and land. So this is much like the stroke you would use for Caden or well. And it creates this little pinwheel kind of effect, which is super fun. It really is okay to try and combine tangles and get these fun little, to take inspiration from one tangle and apply it to another. Little tangulations, kind of. This is one of my favorite ways to draw this now. So we have this kind of airiness going on, but we also have this little intricate play as well. And then you could, of course, fill up the entire page with these little these little Tripoli pinwheels, or you could add in other tangles. So that's some fun stuff you can do. You can see here, and I'm actually going to accent this one a little bit more. I added little dots in between these little shapes, which is something else that you can do. Kind of where everything all fits together is a great space for a little bit of an accent. You could go in, let me see. Here I did them and I made them bigger to tie in with all these little dark spaces that I have going on in this tile. So I hope this has given you some fun ideas. I will shade this one for you so that you can see what this looks like with a little bit of shading. I'm just adding some graphite around these little curves. Not a lot, just a little bit, right in these arcs. But I hope that you take this tangle and that you play with it. If this is your first time with me, I do have a bunch of these videos that are they're either under live or they're under video. Facebook seems to alternate what it calls them depending on the day. So it's under one of those two things on my Facebook page. I also regularly copy some of them over to my Facebook page, which is Whimsy by Kelly. You can look under tutorials. And I also have an Instagram, which is also under Whimsy by Kelly. My new plan, and I haven't gotten there yet, is I want to start putting some stuff up on TikTok. But every time I go over there, I end up losing, 8 hours of my life looking at charcuterie boards and puppy videos. So I haven't gotten very far with that yet. And then I'm just coming in here and I'm softening where I laid down my graphite. And you can see that gives a lot of depth and a lot of dimension. I was all over the place today, and I know that. I apologize if I was hard to follow this morning. I joked that I needed another 37 hours of sleep, but I really don't think I got enough sleep last night. But you can rewatch this as many times as you like. There's never a charge for my Saturday morning demos. I also try and have a wide variety of classes most of the time. I did just have surgery a few weeks ago, so I only have a couple of classes on my calendar right now. But in the next month or so, you'll start to see more of my classes. And I am going to do a nice big free project class next month. So keep an eye out for that. And I hope everyone had a great morning. I hope you learned something and that this has given you some ideas. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Let's see, Catherine. Yes, when I did it as a string. So this one, yes, I would, and I will finish these tiles and I'll post them later. I do a pattern sheet at the end of, after I finish the live, I usually go in and I finish the tiles for you, and then I put them all together on a pattern sheet so you can kind of use it as a little bit of reference. So what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll fill in these spaces with some other tangles, and then I will shade it, and I probably actually will shade one side of this so that it looks like it's casting a shadow over whatever tangles that I place in these spaces. So everybody have a great day, and as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask. You can always, I try and keep everything pretty static. So my email address is Whimsy by Kelly. My Facebook page is Whimsy by Kelly. My Instagram, so you can reach me at one of those places, pretty much anywhere. So everybody have a great, great day. Betty, I'm actually, when I tangle for myself, I'm not usually that fast. I try and do it faster for my lives, and it's much messier than it normally is, but I like to be able to throw out a bunch of ideas. Because I figure you're gonna watch me do it. You can watch it over and over and over again, and then you can take it and play with it and make it your own. So I try and cram as many ideas in as I can, and when I teach a regular class, I go much slower. And when I tangle for myself, I go much slower. So I don't ever want anybody to think that they have to tangle as fast as me. And everybody have a wonderful Saturday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I hope to see you all soon.